welcome to Ecom Talk. My name is Alexei Leilai. Well, where e-commerce stop being confusing and start making sense. Today we have a Chris McCabe. Is a former Amazon employee and founder of e-commerce Chris. After spending many years inside Amazon evaluating seller account performance and enforcing marketplace policies, Chris now helps sellers communicate effectively with Amazon to protect and save their business. He specializes in account health, suspensions, listing restrictions, and appeals. Welcome, Chris.
Yeah, thank you for having me. All the crazy bad stuff that goes with selling. That's what we do.
Yes. And I definitely can vouch for you because we've been working together for many, many years and you always help me a ton. So I definitely can recommend you all the time.
Yeah, no, that the last one we were dealing with, that was a tough one, but came out okay in the end. Glad to see it.
Yes, definitely. So the topic that I have today is why most Amazon appeals fail. So I would like to hear your perspective first, and then I have a couple of questions in regards.
Yeah, and this is maybe the most important topic. I usually tell people to decide early on if they think they can handle it themselves or if they have experience with it, not just looking on the internet or looking for templates or ChatGPT. How do I appeal? I know that's more popular now, but I think the biggest reason people fail when they appeal things themselves is a lack of strategy or the assumption that they can do it themselves. I think I hear from a lot of brand owners who, whether it's an ASIN appeal or an account suspension, they just start appealing. Like, I don't think they make a conscious decision. Yes, I can do this. No, I can't. I think there's still trial and error, or they experiment. And they're kind of like, a lot of, or most people I hear from have already appealed like 3 or 4 times. And when I look at those 3 or 4 appeals, they had less than 10%, maybe 5% chance of success. So they just kind of burned those, which if you get lucky and it's a miracle, great. You don't have to worry about it. But most of the time, that's not the case, like a high majority of the time. And when I talk to them, when I get them on the phone or we look at the appeals, it looks like they were guessing. It looks like they were borrowing something a friend told them. It looks like they're consulting the wrong experts, the wrong people, and getting the wrong type of advice. But it just looks like there's no strategy. It looks like they're winging it. That's kind of the biggest mistake that we see. Or like I said, they're just like basic, pump it into ChatGPT and see what spits out.
Right.
Based on this idea, just the idea I think exists that past successful appeals are scrapable with AI all over the internet.
Right. Yeah, and I believe probably maybe 10 years ago, because I remember when I started selling on Amazon and I had a couple of issues, I was doing myself and it was good enough back in the day. But now it gets, I guess, more sophisticated, more complicated, and you really need a strategy, like you're saying. You really need to have everything laid out properly for them to reinstate the account. Is that correct?
Yeah, if you use AI tools and ChatGPT, you're scraping info that's old and dated, where appeal stuff changes all the time. So a lot of people write a plan of action using the old requests for a plan of action. Amazon almost never asks for a plan of action anymore. The POA, you used to hear about it all the time. Now you hear about it almost never. Huge change. If they ask you for one, then you need to produce one to get reinstated. If they don't ask for one, you don't send a POA. That's the short answer. We still see a lot of people who could be disputing it and denying that they should have been suspended, which is a dispute, right? We see them sending in a POA, like wrong format, admission of wrongdoing when no wrongdoing happened. There's so many reasons not to do that. And also just a failure to read the notification. Like you don't start sending in things they don't ask for. That just makes it more confusing. And they're already kind of looking at it too quickly, not paying attention, kind of confused, like just on their side. Never mind your side. So
Right.
that's a huge, whether it's people just using AI tools to borrow old info online or they just come up with it themselves, that's a huge discrepancy between what you need and what you send.
Right.
And most people I ask, like, why did you send a POA? Well, we got suspended a couple of years ago. We did a POA. And I just say, that was a couple of years ago. That's not this, you know? So
So no more plan of actions. That's not what they request anymore.
don't assume it's a plan of action. If it's a plan of action, make sure they concretely tell you in the notification, you'll get reinstated if we review your plan of action and it's acceptable. If it says that, not in those exact words, but you know what I mean.
Right. The other
If they don't mention it, most messages from Amazon do not say plan of action in it. The sellers I talk to who are sending them tell me that they called account health and the account health rep said it, which doesn't make it right, but it's not in writing. And when I say show me in writing where they want a POA, it wasn't mentioned anywhere. Well, that's because Amazon doesn't want to read those anymore. They want to make it into like a black and white world. The shades of gray, that was the plan of action. Like, is it strong enough, weak enough? You don't really hear sellers talking about that because Amazon doesn't really say, you sent us a weak POA. 3 years ago, they said it all the time. Now, when you get a denial reason, they almost never say you got to tweak the plan of action. They're looking for specific info in the appeal, but it's not in plan of action format. If it's in the wrong format and they look at it and they're like, this is the wrong format, they might not read any of it, even if you had good stuff in it, right?
So, in your opinion, what would be the proper way to appeal the decision? I know I guess there's different reasons also why your account got suspended, but let's say in the common sense, what would be that you need to have in your appeal? Like, what is a must?
I mean, format wise, follow along with what they're asking you for. You asked for this, I gave you that. You asked for this, I gave you that. Follow their direction in terms of, because you're not using plan of action format anymore. If you're disputing it, you're just lining up they say, give us evidence of A, B, and C. Well, that's easy. If A doesn't apply, you give them evidence of B and C, but they want evidence that disputes the reason they had to suspend. They might not have had a reason. They might have suspended you by accident, right? But
That happens a lot.
No, we work on those. The accidental suspensions happen about as much now as they did before, but it doesn't mean it's not fixable. What the shame is and the problem is, I see people who don't dispute it at all. They start admitting things because they think they have to admit something to get reinstated. So that is hurting their ability to dispute it. And it could just be an Amazon mistake. Sometimes Amazon mentions like you're in a restricted category and you're not. Or you didn't have rights owner permission from the brand and you're the brand owner. Like, it's easy to appeal mistakes.
Right.
But they have this misunderstanding of what's expected, probably because they haven't done an appeal before, or they're just talking to the wrong people. I mean, the biggest problem I've seen in the last 6 months, people are quoting to me from unreliable sources. And you and I have talked about this. A lot of times it's a lawyer who says they know this process and they don't, and they're just making stuff up, right? So lawyers are one problem because their information is mostly suspect, unless it's a legal issue or it's intellectual property. Then maybe they've got some ideas. A lot of people online in videos, they talk about writing to Jeff, write an email escalation to Jeff. First of all, that's an escalation is only if you submitted what you were supposed to and Amazon missed it or didn't review it. That's worthy of an escalation. If you do an escalation, but your appeal is all wrong, it doesn't matter where you send it, they'll reject it.
Right.
So just because you get denied doesn't mean you go to executive seller relations. Writing to Jeff is like a 3 or 4 years ago concept. So if they see you writing to Jeff, they make certain assumptions. I mean, they're just biased because they're like, you're doing something old, so you're not up to date. And it's not just that Jeff isn't there. I mean, the email does go to somebody, but it is not to a highly trained manager. It is not like writing to Jeff in the old days. Like when you and I first met, Jeff escalations were totally different. That was 7 years ago. I mean, dated info, if they see you using outdated tricks, templates, formats, writing to Jeff, it's like they know that you don't know what you're doing. And it means
It's
they're,
going basically nowhere.
well, it means they don't have to spend time on you and they don't take you seriously. They might read it. I'm not saying they never read anything that goes. So for anyone who doesn't know, if you write to Jeff at Amazon with an appeal, it goes to executive seller relations. That team isn't what it used to be. I was just reading an article in CNBC about the layoffs, which I think the layoffs were a week or two ago, right?
Uh-huh.
And I had a conversation with the reporter and said, do you know what the breakdown is on what teams inside Amazon were impacted by the layoffs? And the message that came back were, it looks like executive escalations were impacted. I'm kind of still, I'm still looking to confirm it. It's only been a few days since that conversation, that message. But either way, ESR / executive seller relations, it's nowhere near what it was when I was working at Amazon, which means if you are counting on that, then you're counting on something that's probably not going to work. You have to have you have to have a strategy. You have to have a stronger approach. Other than most sellers I talk to, it's like send in one thing. Okay, well then we'll think of something else. Send in one more. Okay, then we'll think of something else. It's like one appeal at a time is not a way to approach it.
Right.
No.
Yeah, the other thing that I'm always talking with different sellers that is very confusing, and see how we can help them, because when they call account health support, right, they rely on the information that account health support provides them,
Yeah.
and it's usually not right information.
Yeah, it
So,
isn't.
or it contradicts what the previous account health support said.
Yeah.
So how they should manage that? I mean, what should they do in this case?
I mean, there's three ways. You can either try another account health rep and see if what they're saying matches up with what you're seeing in a more accurate way. Tell them I was told something different on the previous call. I mean, I tell people just to talk to US based reps, because reps overseas are either making things up or they're not even looking at it, or they're half paying attention.
Is it
But
possible to request them?
I mean, I just tell people call, like, if you're in North America, call late afternoon time frame.
Late afternoon?
It's
Okay.
still going to be a little bit of roulette, right? I mean, it's
Right.
not perfect system. But when I call in with clients, I never end up talking with anyone in India. I'm not saying every Indian rep is off base or inaccurate or terrible. Most of them don't have good enough info to spend time on a call. That
Or not
means,
proper training, right?
well, I mean, the other thing is, when I was at Amazon Accelerate in Seattle a few months ago, I told them this. I told them, like, I'm telling everyone just talk to US reps. But then there were some reps in Seller Cafe in Seattle that didn't have great answers either. So it's like, it's not a perfect system. If you're not getting, if every time you call account health, you call 6 times, you get 6 different answers, obviously you can't just guess which of those 6 is correct. At some point, you have to stop calling and start escalating, but put in the escalations. These are my calls to account health reps. These are the 6, I mean, without making it 6 pages, these are the different things they told me. You can do it in like a paragraph. You can say, the first 3 reps said this, the second 3 reps said that. These are complete paradoxical answers. So I have to escalate it, number 1, because I think my previous appeal had everything. Number 2, no one's indicating why it's being rejected. And number 3, we're getting too many different pieces of advice on how to correct it or improve the appeal. That's a great basis for an escalation. Escalations are where most of our work gets done, not through Seller Central. And no one in account health can really escalate something for you. No one in support can really escalate something for you. And if you're sending to an email queue, you can't just say, hey, can you escalate this, by putting it in the subject line. I mean, maybe 1 in 100 times, 1 in 500 times. Those aren't escalation queues. Those aren't escalation trained personnel. So it's just like, know this before you spend a lot of time on it. The other thing is, I see people spending so much time in the wrong areas. If you're going to waste time, waste 1 appeal. Or if you're going to be on the phone, waste a couple of phone calls.
I see.
Because a lot of sellers are like, I called 40 times this week. I sent 3 emails, through to a general seller performance queue, and I sent 3 Seller Central appeals.
That's too much.
If you're getting the same copy and paste answer, it's like, look, you can't really send a new appeal unless you know, or unless account health knows, and it's clear. And a lot of escalations, they do come back with clarity, and there's plenty of evidence that a person really reviewed it. And there's plenty of indication, even in a written message. Sometimes they call you, by the way. You have to be ready for a phone call. There are sellers who send escalations who get a call in like 3 hours to the number on their Seller Central account because somebody didn't feel like writing out the message or sending a message through Seller Central, so they call. So be ready for a call.
Calls are more effective when they call you.
Have you had calls? Did you get calls? Yeah,
I did. And I, in my opinion, I think they're like more effective. After the call, something happens all the time.
After the calls, you can usually eliminate a lot of wasted time by saying, all we need to know is why this was rejected. Account health doesn't know. We can't write a new appeal and end this. It's just going to be a bunch of back and forth if we don't know why it was denied and what's expected in the rewrite. They don't write it for you. And if they say, well, we can't do the work for you, you say, that's fine. I don't want you to do it for me. We're ready to do it, but we need to know what was missing or what was considered incomplete in the previous appeal. And on the calls that you get from leadership team members or escalation teams, I won't say everyone. I would say 4 out of 5, they give you some decent guidance on what you need to do next and what was missing in the last one.
Right.
Or they tell you, like, I don't know. I can't see it. I can see what they told you. I can see what you sent, but I'm not sure what the answer is. I need to do more digging, and I'll call you a second time. And they do it. They don't always call a second time, but they usually call again, or if they don't call, they write a message and they say, look, we took a look at it. We don't need to talk again. Your account's reinstated. This stuff happens all the time. I'm really surprised sellers don't talk about this on the forums, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, TikTok, whatever, Instagram, because this happens a lot. It doesn't happen every day, but it happens frequently. And you would think somebody would say, I just got a call. I sent an escalation email. I got a call. We resolved it within 24 hours after that call. It happens.
Yes.
You know?
The calls are a lot more effective. That's when they call you, not when you're trying to call account health.
Exactly. And you can't request, hey, we want this person to call us. It doesn't work that way when you call in.
Right.
But if you send an escalation email the right way, the right place, the right time, you're more likely to get one of those calls. It's part of the strategy. It's only one part. It's not like this is the one thing everyone should do. Because, we talk to brand owners who are like, well, we don't have any compliance documentations, and they want FDA, they want lab tests and, from ISO certified labs. Well, obviously that's not just like an escalation email. You have to get your documentation together.
Right.
But that's the issue. Sellers like a one size fits all problem solution. And it's very specific to your case. And it's very helpful if you don't waste a lot of appeals guessing and submitting whatever you want just to feel like you're appealing it. I mean, a big problem is haste. People doing things very quickly, in a very disorganized, sloppy way.
Emotionally. A lot of emotion instead of
anger, frustration, confusion,
fear.
I mean, which is fine to have those feelings. Don't put it on paper or don't put it in the email. Like, having the feeling is maybe positive in ways that you don't even know, but use it as a weapon or a tool. Don't use it as the basis. The foundation of what you do, because then you sound like you're complaining, or you sound like you feel it's an injustice, or you think Amazon's being cruel. I can just tell you, they're not going to waste time reading it. They're just not going to. So, yeah.
Chris, in some cases, there's appeals that are not getting replied at all. What happens in those cases?
I mean, call account health and find out why there's no response. They might be able to tell you why there's no response, or they might be able to get you a response. Typically, not getting an answer is like a denial, and they feel like they already told you a few times that you're rejected, or it's you're sending the same thing over and over.
Okay.
Because there's this idea, still on YouTube, still on LinkedIn, all over the place, there's an idea like, keep sending it. I've seen people say in LinkedIn comments, just keep sending it in. Eventually somebody will read it. This is I'm sure you've heard this too. Very common.
Yes.
But they're sending the same thing. So if they're thinking you're spamming them with the same content, it's like spam. Like you don't answer spam when it's an email. They don't answer spam if you're sending. If they think you're sending the same thing, just a new person, a new place, once a day, they consider that spam, and they're not going to respond to it.
Right.
Yeah. The other explanation is you did send the right thing. It got transferred to the wrong place. It got stuck on the wrong person. It's just mismanagement on their side, careless disorganization on their side. You could always send another appeal and say, look, we appealed on a couple of these dates. Maybe there's a ticket locked to one person. Maybe it was read, but they forgot to answer us, but we haven't had a response. I mean, that's a legit reason to send a follow-up. So
the other form of, I would say, not suspension, is not a direct suspension, but a lot of times now Amazon tactics, if something wrong, they hold your funds.
yeah.
How you handle that, and what is the solution for this? You know, I really rather for them, to be honest, suspend the account and then try to reinstate and understand what's going on than just holding the funds and not even know what's going on.
Yeah.
You know? A lot of times it's been happening with many sellers.
So you mean a suspended account, not an active account with a reserve that's growing? Because I've seen both.
No, the account is not suspended.
Reserves.
But everything is in the reserve.
Yeah.
They just roll over the money to a reserve.
We've started doing escalations for that. Sometimes it's a mistake, and they don't mean to keep your funds that long. They're just not paying any attention to it, and they reserved it temporarily, and it became permanent because nobody followed up. If the amount is growing and growing, and you can't operate, then you just have to do escalation emails based on, we wrote to you 14 days ago, it's 14 days later, we still haven't been paid. And there's no information, we got a generic message or we got no message. This happens a lot. And we do escalations, there's nothing in account health rating is fine, we have no policy warnings, just list all the stuff that aren't the case that could lead to a funds reserve. If they're warning you policy violations and you don't answer, that could be the reason, right? Or if they quarantined your inventory because they think it doesn't match your detail page, that's a reason. So like you should be working on that problem and then complain about the funds, not complain about the funds and then deal with the unresolved notifications. And I have seen that. I have seen people being warned for bad behavior, mislisted products, unresolved intellectual property complaints, many different things. Maybe they accuse you of harming another seller, trying to take out a competitor. They reserve funds for lots of different reasons now, and it might just be one sentence at the bottom saying we're reserving your funds until this is resolved. Well, then resolve it as quickly as possible. Don't let that amount grow. I've worked with people who had $500,000 held. I've worked with some people who had 7-figure holds, like $1.5 million, $1.33 million. I mean, that's a lot of money to just have like stuck. And you're not suspended. Like if you were suspended and they're holding $1 million, at least you know why it's being held.
Right.
Yes,
that's the worst. That's the worst feeling. And the reserve is growing. You continue having sales, but you don't know what's going on.
And what surprised, again, this is like something I said a minute ago when I said people come to us after they appeal it 3 or 4 times and then they call us. I have people waiting 6 weeks. It's like, get to me in like the first payment miss or maybe the second. And then, plan your strategy as opposed to like, I had a guy last fall, like Q4, and he just randomly contacted us and says, we haven't been paid since the summer.
Oh, wow.
And it was like October. So 3 months. So they had like 1.2 million that they hadn't been paid. And they said, our whole business is Amazon. We're not going to stop selling just because they're not paying us, but we can't get them to pay us. You have to contact me soon. And the same thing with like people who are suspended. never have the mindset that you're going to, it doesn't have to be me, but reach out to somebody competent for help before the second or third appeal. Right?
So that's your recommendation. After the second, maximum third appeal, contact
Yeah.
someone that is knowing what they're doing,
It
right?
depends. If you have no idea what you're doing and you've never done it before, then reach out before your first appeal, because you don't, if you have no idea what you're doing, then you're probably just looking, using basic resources online or otherwise to get an appeal done.
Right.
I mean, I had somebody yesterday say, I've never done this before, can't afford my fee, can't have us do it. What are the tips and tricks you advise for first time appeal writers? It's like, it's not like that. This isn't a template. Templates went out a long time ago, the basic plan of action format, that's like 3-4 years ago. Even then it didn't really work that well.
Right.
So you have to decide, like, are you capable of handling it? I work with sellers who have their VAs doing it. And so I just say, first thing, your VA doesn't know how to do this appeal. I have never met a VA that did a good appeal like that. Never. So,
Right.
I mean, if it's like performance metrics, like we were shipping late, now we're not shipping late anymore, okay, maybe your VA can write that. Something basic.
Right.
We canceled a bunch of orders because we didn't have the inventory. Okay. That's like straightforward. Stop listing stuff if you don't have the inventory. Okay, fine.
Right.
And I know as the years go by, people are just going to use ChatGPT for more and more appeals. If you're just copying and pasting what ChatGPT spits out, you're not even appealing. And also, Amazon has tools to figure out if you're using ChatGPT or AI.
I can imagine.
Yeah, they know. The same way they can figure out if you edit an invoice or a supplier authorization letter, whatever these tools are, I don't know, I don't use them. They can tell when it's AI written.
Right.
And they will tell you. Sometimes account health reps will say, this looks like AI on the call. I've heard it like maybe 5-6 times so far. So they know. And also, you don't need automated tools. I mean, I can tell when it's AI. People email me using AI all the time. I can tell. You can tell. You can tell.
Right.
I mean, 2 years from now, maybe it's harder. But right now, you can tell.
So, Chris, in your opinion, with your experience, this whole appeal process, is it getting better or is it getting worse with Amazon?
I think sellers are getting worse, not better. Unless they've had tons of practice with successful reinstatements, that kind of practice is useful practice. If it's like no rhyme or reason to it, guesswork practice, that's the wrong kind of practice. So I think sellers are getting worse at appealing. I think Amazon's getting worse at reviewing appeals. And eventually we'll enter the world where all of the appeals are AI reviewed first, and then maybe somebody looks at it. But I don't think Amazon's investing in lower tier teams anymore. I think they understand the escalation process is here to stay, and they're not resisting that so much anymore. So Amazon's making a lot of mistakes. I think the problem is there's no real quality assurance inside Amazon. If their own people make mistakes, either in asking for the wrong thing, or not reviewing an appeal, or not reviewing previous account annotations because they're going too fast, I don't think anyone's noticing. I don't think anyone takes responsibility for quality assurance. So it's bad on both sides, and if both people are talking past each other, that just means it's going to take 6 appeals instead of 2.
Wow.
You can't control them other than escalating it and pointing out the flaws in what they've given you back so far. Some people call account health rep, and the account health reps are like, yeah, there's nothing here. There's no annotations. No evidence it was read. Wow. So if that's the case, use that in your escalation. I mean, they admit it sometimes. Like, yeah, it doesn't look like anyone read this. So you can't control that. You can only control your side and how solid you are.
Nobody read it, but it got denied.
Oh, they're all denied, but no one can say why it was denied. The account health rep will put the seller on hold for 10 or 15 minutes, come back. You know what? I read your appeal. I mean, ask around. You'll hear this story by a lot of sellers. They say they read it. They said they think it's complete. They can't find any reason why it was rejected. I hear that a lot. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
So,
Chris,
unfortunately, I think it's getting worse.
one more question, a little bit more personal. What was the hardest part of leaving Amazon and stepping into a role where directly supports sellers one by one?
The hardest part of leaving Amazon, I think it was just that I had been there so long. My definition of work and being employed was being there. And I didn't have a lot of knowledge or experience outside of Amazon. So when I left Amazon, I was talking to different startups, and I talked to people like Etsy, other e-commerce marketplaces or platforms, but I had a very Amazon-related mind, and I had been trained, and I had trained myself to think that way. So it was hard to work on other platforms. I was still working with brands. I mean, I worked with brands, but I wasn't working, at first, I wasn't working on Amazon stuff. And it was just hard to separate myself from that mindset because Amazon land is a very unique, specific way of looking at business, looking at e-commerce, looking at your relationship to a larger, more powerful company that you're in business with. And it's probably kind of like if you work for the federal government for years and years, and then all of a sudden you're in the private sector. It's similar to that, I think, where all of a sudden you're like, oh man, the government has so many specific ways of doing things. And now I'm in the private sector where there's more, maneuverability or more entrepreneurship. So you have to kind of get your mind out of the, I don't work for the government anymore. I got to take more initiative. Maybe when you worked for the federal government, you just took orders from the top. And now you're in a role where you have to take more initiative yourself. So that was the most difficult part. But the biggest reason I left was because I saw how things were heading in the wrong direction. And they had been for a while. And I kind of anticipated a world where sellers would need people like me to help them. Right? And once I knew that, I knew my days at Amazon were pretty much numbered. Yeah.
Chris McCabe, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time, for your expertise, and thank you for supporting seller community.
Yeah, and if anyone has questions about this or anything else, especially an emergency, you can just email me, Chris, CHRIS, at ecommercechris.com.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much.
Thanks.